You're listening to the Pole Position Podcast from Let's Talk Sport.
Lights out, away we go!
Yes! Max Verstappen wins the Malaysian Grand Prix the day after his 20th birthday, and it got all a little bit too exciting for the Dutchman.
Looks like I peed myself. Maybe I did.
Stay tuned for our review of the Malaysian Grand Prix on the Pole Position Podcast.
Thank you guys so much.
So joining me for the review of the Malaysian Grand Prix is Jack Price yet again, and Harry Wright returns as well. But Dan Middleton, well, he's supposed to be on the deathbed. I don't know if he's dead yet, but we will find out some point, and we will post on Let's Talk Sport, and hopefully rest in peace. But he might come back from the dead. We'll find out in the future. But anyway, let's talk about what happened on Sunday at Malaysian Grand Prix. It was the final race to take place at the Sepang International Circuit, and well, after rumours, it might come back in the future. I'm sure it will. It's a fantastic circuit, but let's hope it does, because it certainly has hosted some great races. But overall, it was Max Verstappen who won his second ever F1 race, along with the stunning win he got in Spain last year. It was his first podium since China in April earlier this year, which is a fact which I find very hard to believe. But when Max Verstappen has said in interviews in the last few weeks, where the Saturday has been good to him, but Sunday has just been a completely different story in his words. And then, of course, Hamilton finished second to make sure that he gets more points away from Sebastian Vettel. Daniel Ricciardo completing the podium in third. Hamilton, of course, wasn't that delighted with the race results. He thought the car could have done better, but there was just no race pace. And yeah, Vettel finishing fourth after being in 20th place from qualifying. Incredible race. Harry, well, Verstappen winning that race. I know to him it's just to get that first win of the season, but surely that's going to pump him up for the new season next year, because he's not a one race win wonderer, is he?
No, he's done better than a few drivers now. Someone like Kovalainen springs to mind. He was a bit of a one race wonder, but no, I mean, Verstappen, he's obviously a very, very good driver, but unfortunately for him, his car just blows up like every single race this season. So, I think he probably could have won at least one more, but he's just got so many retirements. Looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 retirements this season alone, and how many of those were from good positions? So, yeah, he deserved another race win, and I think after the season he's had, he's deserved this win.
Jack, for Red Bull as well, it's their second win of the season, along with Ricciardo when he won in Azerbaijan. If Red Bull carry on like this, maybe at least throughout the rest of the year, or maybe next year, we could see ourselves with 3 cars up for the title next year.
I think that's what everybody's hoping for. I think everybody's hoping, because we were all hoping that for Ferrari last year. So I think everybody's hoping that this year Red Bull can do what Ferrari have done over winter testing last season, and just sort of pull it out of the bag more. We know that they've got a good chassis. It's just the reliabilities this year, like Harry said, hasn't really been good enough, whether that's down to the engine, whether that's down to all the little pieces that go around it. But I think that's something, obviously, that they'll want to work on, because they've been very successful since they joined F1. We all know this. I think all of them, still, the people that are working there right now, still want to be at the top.
Okay, well, we'll listen to the team radio the moment Max Verstappen won the Malaysian Grand Prix.
Well, yes!
Well done, Max. Well done, mate. That was absolutely on merit. Flawless drive. And happy birthday, mate.
I enjoyed that one.
Super job, Max. That's really great drive. So welcome to being a 20-year-old. Great start to a new decade for you. Well done.
Thank you very much, Christian. Car was great.
And then here was his thoughts after the race, talking to the journalist of F1.
It was a very good day. as soon as I passed Lewis, I knew that from there onwards I could control the race, and luckily the pace also then on the soft tires was very good. So yeah, the car today was really good. So I could look after my tires, and it was very physical, very warm in the car, but we managed to bring it home.
Okay, let's look at our poll results then, because we did ask on Twitter, and I must admit I was half asleep. It was 5 minutes before the race was about to start. And when you wake up and you forgot to do something, checked my phone and thought, hang on a minute, I haven't put a poll up for who's going to win this race. So I did it with 5 minutes to spare. And we got quite a response still. Hashtag can go so far. So thank you to everyone who voted. Our question was, of course, who is going to win the Malaysian Grand Prix? And 40% was the highest for Lewis Hamilton, and 20% for Verstappen, Ricciardo, and any others if you commented the name underneath that tweet. And how wrong we all were, because Hamilton finished in second place. And really, I don't know about you folks, but he was very gutted at the end, probably because his rival and championship rival only finished 2 places behind after starting the race in the last position. But he said as well, Harry, that he's worried about the Mercedes car because it's had a few problems from the weekend, but he's also worried about Ferrari's pace come Japan next weekend.
Well, I think Japan probably he's bluffing a bit there. I think Mercedes will be all right in Japan because it's the hot circuits that Mercedes struggle on. It's today he just couldn't get. Well, his tyres were too hot, and that cost him. And in the end, Red Bull beat him fair and square. I think Ferrari perhaps might not do as well in Japan though either. I think that's a nailed-on Red Bull track for me. So I think Hamilton's probably saying that, but it's all a lot of words without actually meaning anything, though.
Mm. It's like he probably has an earpiece during the interviews, and Toto Wolff saying, say we did bad today. Say we did bad today. We did bad today. Maybe there's some van near the press conference room. But Jack, when you look at Hamilton as well, he's definitely, he's a race winner. He is a championship winner, but every time he never wins, even if he gets a good result, he's never positive, is he, in front of the media?
No, there's always like two sides to Lewis Hamilton. If he wins, he's very happy. If he loses, he thinks the world's crumbling around him. And I think that sometimes that brings out a good siding, because I think sometimes the next race he tries to push more. I think Harry's right. I don't think Ferrari will be that much of a problem if he can do well on the Saturday. I think if he gets the car on pole, then I don't think that there's going to be much problem in Japan. But I think that he needs to keep pushing. Obviously, it is disappointing when your rival starts at the back of the grid and he's only a couple of places behind you at the end of the race. But for me, he could not finish in Japan and he'd still be winning the championship. So I think that there's still a lot more positives for Lewis to have.
Yeah, definitely a nice security to have ahead of the Japanese Grand Prix. Well, this is what Hamilton said after the race, coming in second.
Considering he started last, it's not really that great, to be honest. We should have won today, but just didn't have the pace. We knew going into the race that we didn't have the quickest car. Our deltas were 8 tenths. The Ferraris were 8 tenths faster than us, which they were at least, and the Red Bulls also 5-6 tenths quicker than us, in which they were. So there wasn't really much I could do there, and I really had to make a decision when Max was closing down. I had to make the decision to not fight him and risk him crashing into me, because he's got everything he's going to give it everything. He's got nothing to lose. This is where I have everything to lose, so I didn't make it very hard for him.
So Hamilton 34 points ahead of Sebastian Vettel with 5 races to go. Let's talk about the German now, because he finished 4th from 20th. An incredible drive from the German, and even it was amazing because in his post-race interview he looked disappointed. If that was me, I can't even drive a car anyway. I'd have been delighted to get 4th from 20th. But that just shows yet again another championship winner. It's all about getting the aims that they have targeted for at the start of the week. And Harry, when you look at Vettel, in a way, it's like he lost because he didn't get a podium. He was very close, but just couldn't catch up with Ricciardo at the end.
Yeah, I mean, I heard Horner say that on the radio to Ricardo or whoever. Says you've broken his spirit. And I think that was right. Vettel tried his level best, but his car sort of didn't give up on him, but he ran out of tyres basically, and tried his very best, but couldn't quite do it. So, I mean, that's one of the reasons why he got driver of the day. Though, it was a stellar performance to come from all the way to the back on the back of the grid to fourth. But he seemed a bit gutted, and it probably wasn't helped by the fact that the race had ended, and then Lance Stroll just decided to destroy his car.
Actually, let's talk about that, because that was incredibly bizarre. Jack, I remember, as I said, I was half asleep. So when the race had finished, I only just woke up to realise Verstappen actually won the race, thinking, how did I miss that last lap? Oh dear. But then when I woke up, Vettel's car had one wheel on the other side. The left rear tyre was on the opposite side, which was quite bizarre. And I worried that he didn't finish the race, that he somehow clashed into someone before the finish line. But the fact that it happened afterwards, that never happens, and it was certainly a bizarre end, Jack.
Well, he was saving his rear tyres for the end. So he put it on the back of the car to save it from blowing out. But I don't know. I don't know what happened really. Whether Lance Stroll sort of moved over and just sort of took him out, or if both of them had just sort of drained from the race and just both lost concentration. But they turned that Ferrari into a reliant Robin pretty quickly there, didn't they?
Yeah.
To put 3 wheels on the car only. So I don't really know what was going on, but I thought it was funny that out of all the cars to get taken home by to the pits was a Sauber. Just to annoy him even more. He's like, it's a Sauber.
I loved it how Pascal Wehrlein stopped for him, but then Vettel is taking the steering wheel out of his car. He doesn't want anyone to take it out of the car. Very expensive stuff, of course. But it was the fact that a safety car was coming up behind, thinking that safety car is probably faster than the Sauber to get you back to the pit. But he picked the Sauber.
Safer as well.
Yeah, and it's probably safer as well. And just the fact that he picked the Pascal Wehrlein's car instead. But Harry, it's great for the fans, even though the FIA will not be happy with that.
No, they won't be. But it's one of those things where it's who cares really?
Exactly. We've seen.
What would have been funnier is if Pascal Wehrlein had waited all that time, then as Vettel walks over, he drives off.
See you later, sucker.
Yeah.
16 fingers into his fellow countryman.
You're not fast. You're not fast now without your Ferrari. Anyway, let's gather the thoughts of Vettel and Lance Stroll and their team radio the moment it happened.
Is that possible? Stroll is not looking where he's going. He completely shunted into my car.
Lance Stroll.
I mean, seriously.
Vettel just ran right into the side of me.
Well, I went on the outside to pick up a bit of rubber. I think Lance wasn't looking and wanted to do the same, but that was too late. I was there already, and then we had contact, so that's completely unnecessary. But yeah, I think he just didn't look and then decided to go pick up some rubber.
Is there any concern about the gearbox looking forward?
I don't know. We need to see, but I'm sure that we'll find a way. Obviously, not my fault if somebody just decides to pick up rubber and hit another car.
It was the in-lap. I was just driving very slowly back into the pit lane. I think we're going to have to go to the stewards and talk about it. I don't know. It's just a very strange incident. Obviously, the race wasn't going on, so it wasn't intentional for either of us.
So, Pierre Gasly, who of course began his F1 debut this weekend for Toro Rosso, Daniel Kvyat has been, well, temporarily kicked out, we could say, for at least the next couple or so races. We'll find out in the future, of course, later on this season. But he finished 14th at the end, and they were talking to the Toro Rosso team boss during the race on Sky, and he was saying that he was doing a great job. And really, Harry, it's great to see from a new driver and could be a future star for F1.
Yeah, I mean, Pierre Gasly is a good driver. He's been in GP2 for quite a few years, and he had pretty much the most solid race you can have. Didn't have a stellar finishing position, but kept it on the track all the way around, which is hard enough in itself. But Red Bull, they've got a lot of sort of depth in their team at the moment, and I think that's kind of good and bad for them, because it means that as long as Verstappen and Ricciardo are there, people like Sainz, for example, and Gasly, they've got it hard to actually find a place in F1.
And it's crazy as well, Harry, because Sainz is proven to be a fantastic driver, especially for what he did in Singapore, finishing fourth. There's just not enough seats for F1, sadly.
No, I mean, maybe there needs to be a Toro Rosso 2.
Maybe so. Maybe Monster Energy should get a team going and see if that can relate, but maybe not.
Just bring back Minardi.
I feel like we wouldn't progress. Maybe bring back HRT, or any car from Cosworth is not good. Well, let's gather the thoughts of Pierre Gasly after his dream F1 debut.
Yeah, it was definitely a great moment, coming on the grid this afternoon and feeling that I was going to take my first Formula One race was a really special moment for me. But then after, as soon as the light switched off, you're just focusing on the work, and I try to give my best and deliver the best performance I could with my experience, and I think it was a positive one. We didn't really have a strong pace, unfortunately, but I had good battle at the end, and I think it was definitely a good experience. No big mistakes, so I think overall it was a good weekend, and there are many things that I feel that I can improve to be better for the next races. So I will work out.
So, as mentioned before, Max Verstappen winning his first race of the season for Red Bull, Lewis Hamilton second and Daniel Ricciardo third, Vettel in fourth place, which, even though we'll discuss it later, is pretty much driver of the day. Valtteri Bottas in fifth, he just couldn't keep the German away. Sergio Perez sixth, which was a pretty good performance for the Mexican after he had been saying all weekend he wasn't feeling very well. I think he even had a blood test on the Saturday. Stoffel Vandoorne, now let's talk about him for McLaren Honda. He said after the race that he pretty much had the best race in his F1 career so far. Here's what he had to say.
Yeah, I can say this was definitely my best ever race in Formula One up until now. All weekend I've been really, really strong, very confident with the car in qualifying. To finish seventh, we weren't really sure where we were able to finish in the race, and to pull off seventh today was an amazing result. After a great start, we knew it was going to be difficult to maybe hold the Force Indias and the Williamses behind, but only Perez came through, and from then on we just had amazing pace, pushed very, very hard every lap to try and keep the gap with Stroll, and that's what we managed until the end.
Harry, I remember a few months ago when you mentioned to me Vandoorne. I never heard of him, I'll be honest. You were telling me how good this guy could be, and I'm starting to see the results already. In a very how can I say in a nice way, crap car. How? I mean, the future is certainly bright for Vandoorne as well.
Yeah, I mean, McLaren have signed him for another season, which I always thought they were going to do anyway, because they believe in him and they accept that the car's not that good. But like I said, I've known he's been very good for a long time. I've been a bit disappointed, not that he's not been good, but that he hasn't been able to show that he's good this season. And so, like, a result like this is exactly what he needs, and get people who perhaps don't know who he is to sort of shut up a bit. Because people say, Vandoorne's rubbish. It's like, he's not rubbish. He's just having not such a great season. It happens. And he will come back and he will prove that he's a very good driver.
And Jack, for him to finish quite a few places ahead of Alonso as well, and he's done that a few times this season where he's finished ahead of Alonso, that's some achievement in itself.
Yeah, I mean, we all know what Fernando Alonso can do. Obviously, he was having a bit of bickering going on with the likes of Magnussen and that during the race, so he was keeping busy himself. But Vandoorne coming out, and obviously, I think it was the two Williamses as well when he came out from the pits. So we know he's proving that he's a good racer as well. But I just think it's interesting that since McLaren and Honda have split, they've had two of their best performances in the season. But I think, again, coming to Japan, as much as it may not be a great circuit for McLaren, some parts of the circuit might be with the chassis, but we know on the long straights that Honda engine is probably just not going to be much cop.
It's a snail.
Basically. But when they go into Japan, they obviously want to put in a good performance, so it'd be interesting to see where Vandoorne and Alonso finish this weekend coming.
Well, I mean, we'll talk more about Van Dorn, I'm sure, in the future podcast. But there's still 5 races left. He can still gather himself a few more points because with that finish, he gets himself 6 added to his overall total. In 8th place is Lance Stroll with wheels on his car. Still after that collision, he picks up 4 points. Felipe Massa, another driver that had a quiet day, finishing in 9th. And Esteban Ocon, who actually went off the track at one point, was able to get back on and gets himself the final point out of the top 10. Fernando Alonso 11th, Magnussen 12th. Not many people are happy with Magnussen, are they? Because there was an Alonso and Magnussen clash. I think it was on the second corner. Then come turn 5, Alonso got very angry. And I think he even said on the team radio, Hulkenberg is right about Magnussen. And apparently, in a post-race interview, Alonso has told the media that 19 out of the 20 drivers believe Kevin Magnussen is a very, very bad driver. Harry, is that a little bit harsh?
I mean, I think that's possibly a bit harsh, but again, this is my bias coming from a McLaren fan. Magnussen was sort of the predecessor to Van Dorn, really, sort of McLaren's hyped driver. And since he left McLaren, he's just sort of kind of dropped off a bit. And, it's just, I can kind of see where he's coming from. But the incident with Magnussen, it seemed to be like 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, really. Like, no driver is ever going to say, oh, that was my fault. They're always going to point their finger at the other guy. So, I'm inclined to just sort of ignore Alonso on that one. I still think Magnussen's an all right driver.
Speaking of Alonso, Jack, there was a blue flag flashing at Alonso quite a few times, but and that was because Vettel was right behind him, where he was about to overlap the Spaniard. But what did you think of that? He ignored the blue flags for a while. Was this a revenge from 5 years ago to say you cost me the 2012 championship or the 2010 championship? I want my revenge on you now.
Well, I think it's pretty clear that there isn't really a friendship between the two of them. We'll say that. I think there's respect there, but they're never going to be friends going out for a beer after the race.
No.
But you could see that when Ricciardo and Vettel were fighting, he happily let Ricciardo through, and yet just as he saw Vettel was coming in the red Ferrari, he just pulled over slightly and was like, "No, you can wait a couple more corners." But obviously Vettel said his frustration on the radio, saying, "Come on, you're better than that." But does Alonso really care when he's not getting points at the back of the grid? So it doesn't really matter. He'd be annoyed if it was in Vettel's situation, but he hasn't had that for a couple of years, so he's not really going to worry about that.
No, it has been probably a bit too long for Mr. Alonso being at the front row. Wait too long for a very talented driver. In 13th, Romain Grosjean for Haas F1 as well. Pierre Gasly in 14th, as we've mentioned. Jolyon Palmer, I can't wait to see him leave F1 in 15th. Sorry, Palmers. He went off twice today. Harry, where's the future of Jolyon Palmer?
I think the future of Jolyon Palmer is not in Formula One. I mean, it's just like, it's funny because he could be rubbish, and this is F1 fans in a nutshell. He could be rubbish all season, have one good race, and people will be like, "Yeah, see, he's always been good. He's turned the corner now. He's on his way, and this is it. He's be good now." But he's just not good. He's not a good driver. It took him 4 years to win GP2.
Yeah, I mean, I remember Sky Sports F1 have been a bit cringy, Harry, where Paul di Resta is one of their pundits now, and they keep talking to Toto Wolff because he knows a bit about Williams, and they keep asking, and then they joke and say, "Is di Resta up for the seat then?" And then Toto Wolff does that nice grin like, yeah, it's not happening. He's not coming back. I think it's probably best we don't have him back, but there's always that manners there. And he reminds me of Jolyon Palmer. I'm sorry, Paul di Resta. You annoy me on TV, and you annoyed me when you drove a car. But anyway, we'll move on, or I'll go on a rant. Nico Hulkenberg in 16th in the Renault, which, can I just say, I think the sexiest car for me this year is the Renault. I love that car. Yellow and black, it goes. It reminds me of the Jordan days for some reason, Harry.
It is a good car. I mean, obviously this podcast isn't going to be about arguing about what the best looking car is, but it's definitely up there.
It's definitely up there. I think it's right at the top right now, but that's probably me getting too romantic. Pascal Wehrlein in 17th with the Sauber, and yes, you guessed right, another Sauber finished last, and that was Marcus Ericsson, and that was, of course, no good whatsoever. But Carlos Sainz didn't finish, and Kimi Raikkonen retired from the start. And that's 2 races in a row now that Kimi Raikkonen has not been able to finish a race. And really, Vettel might need his help for the next few races to hopefully close that 34-point gap over Lewis Hamilton. Lads, it's the Japanese Grand Prix next weekend, so no rest for the wicked for these drivers. Is it me, Harry, or, 34 points, it could have been a hell of a lot worse today for Vettel if he didn't finish, for example. He could have had problems with the car at the start, as well as Raikkonen. Luckily, it wasn't him, and it was Raikkonen instead, but surely if he has any more big slip-ups now, and Hamilton wins the same race, surely it's got to be over against a driver like Hamilton.
Yeah, obviously anything can happen, but his title is hanging by a thread, really. Like, that Singapore breakdown, crash, cost him his title, I think. And even if he, does something miraculous and does really well all through the next races, I just don't think he's going to win. Vettel's just been ever so slightly too inconsistent for me this season. Like a couple of 4th places here and there, and 7th place in Great Britain. Whereas Hamilton, they've both been consistent, but Hamilton's just been more on it, I think. And it's one of those where if Hamilton did win, or will win, he'll deserve it. But if Vettel wins, he'll deserve it as well. But it's just a little bit harder for Vettel.
Jack, I feel with Vettel, okay, he has been in championships where he's had to fight very hard to become that world champion, 2010, for example, and 2012. But I feel that he hasn't got the best car out of the two, and I just feel if Vettel doesn't always have the best car, he doesn't show up.
No, I think that's possible. I think he's obviously come back from worse situations than he is. He's won the title from having less points than he's got, and the gap's been bigger than this. But I think sometimes, I don't know whether it's still in Ferrari's strategy, but sometimes they just make the odd calls, and people look and go, why have they done that at that point? And I think there has been situations this year where they've made a wrong call, and Mercedes have obviously capitalised on that. I don't think that there'll be any issues that Lewis Hamilton's obviously been talking about Mercedes. I don't think that's going to be an issue now. I think the only one that could be an issue is possibly Brazil, just because of the possible temperatures there. Whether how hot it's going to be at that period. But I don't really see another race, like Harry said, with the high temperatures of Singapore and Malaysia, that's really going to affect the Mercedes until the end of the year.
Well, I must admit, I think really, Harry, for Vettel now, it's to probably just go into it and just say to himself, look, I have nothing to lose. If I don't win the World Championship, I've still got 4 in the trophy room, but next year could be another good year.
Yeah, definitely. Ferrari, a bit inconsistent sort of with what sort of cars they build, but obviously this time of year is, most teams will already be building next season's car anyway. I think if they left it this late, they're going to have a bad season next year. But Ferrari, you never know what they're going to do with their car. They could build a great car, could build a completely terrible car. It does seem to alternate every other year. So excited to see what I can do there. But a couple of exciting races coming up on the calendar, like Mexico and Brazil, both high altitude races, so will work well for the turbos. Obviously, Abu Dhabi goes from being quite a hot race to being a cold race, and then you got the United States, which is both. Well, Hamilton, he loves that track, so he's going to be very tough to beat there. So this title, it is going to go all the way.
I was just going to mention I love this part of the F1 season. In the last 3, 4, 5 years, I always love the winter part because, Mexico and US, you get to go to a pub to watch it because it's not at 8 a.m, it's at 6 p.m. or 7 p.m. It's great. You can actually have a pint instead of being half awake, actually forgetting what I'm watching. And as you say, the circuits now are all respectable, apart from Abu Dhabi. Now, we all know why it's there, don't we? Of course it's not money. Of course it's not. It's because the track looks fancy. Of course not. Yeah, rubbish. And you know what? Herman Tilke designed a track that you can overtake on. Thank you. But I tell you what, we'll move on because since we're talking about tracks, Harry, I asked Jack in the build-up to this race what his Malaysia memory is, and we've used it as a hashtag on Instagram on the Pole Position Podcast. Make sure you follow us. We like to have a bit of a laugh on there. Good old Meme-matic. It's a great app. Harry, may I ask for your Malaysia memory? What was your favourite moment?
Of this last race, or just the whole
overall?
Overall, I mean, there's so many iconic moments. You have Hamilton blowing up last year.
Yeah.
And you've got, obviously, 2001, the torrential downpour. And you've got 2009 as well. That had a big downpour as well. Jenson Button winning. But I don't know, I'm going to put in a bit of a curveball and say the first race there, the 99 race, where Ferrari and McLaren did battle. And it was, almost led to a decider, or set up the decider in Japan.
And that was an Eddie Irvine win, am I right?
Yes, you are, because Michael Schumacher covered him, because obviously Michael Schumacher missed the season.
You hear that, listeners? I nearly got Mr. F1. I nearly got him then. He remembered.
I'm looking just to make sure.
Jack,
it was an Eddie Irvine win.
Good old Eddie Irvine, a legend to F1. Sadly, not a world champion, but he was a legend. Jack, just remind the listeners, what was your Malaysia memory?
Mine was probably more off track than on track, but it's got to be multi-21 between Webber and Vettel, and it was just the aftermath when they were sitting in before going out onto the podium, and Webber just literally looked at Vettel and said, "What the hell were you doing?" And it was just Vettel, like you said on the preview show, just sipped that whole bottle of water in one go, trying to think of an answer. To come up with why he did what he did, but I think it was just that it was one of the most cringiest things with the telly, with the cameras in there, and Vettel just looking like, what am I going to say? What am I going to do?
He probably actually celebrated. He thought, yes, oh crap, I forgot about my teammate. Here we go. Here's that awkward moment. Oh, why didn't you just not finish? Anyway, of course, Malaysia. Thank you for the memories. I really do hope it comes back to F1. And may I say, when you play on the video game, it is great to drive. And anyway, that's how close we'll ever get, us three, probably, come driving an F1 car. But we must move on to the Pole Position Podcast Predictions Championship. Yeah, it's quite a long one, isn't it? It's a bit of a mouthful, that. And straight away, Jack and Harry are probably hiding behind their chair and sofa, as it's not really been a one to remember for them. And Dan Middleton as well, who is, of course, he's the man on the deathbed, and he may as well be on the deathbed with this prediction. Because, Jack, let's start off with you. You said Hamilton to win, so you don't get anything there. You said Vettel to come second. He's hiding somewhere. I can't see him on Skype. And Bottas third. Oh, dear. If only you put Hamilton second, you might have at least got 8 points. But then we move on to Harry. Harry, what did you get? You said Hamilton as well. To win the race. Ricciardo in second. If only you swapped in with Vettel, because Vettel you went for third, and that is nil point. Then we move on to Dan Middleton. And if you are listening, Dan, you didn't do very well. Hamilton first. Bottas second. Vettel third. Yet again, Bottas didn't feature in the podium. Neither did Vettel, and he needed to put Hamilton in second to get any points. And then we come to me. Yes, I feel good. Because I said Vettel to win, no idea why. Hamilton second. I'll take that, so that's 8 points. And then Raikkonen third. Wow. 8 points. 8 points, which means we look at the table and there hasn't really been any progress. Harry stays in...
Straight, you with the least believable prediction gets the most points.
F1, Harry. F1. I must admit, no one even put Verstappen on the podium. No one did, even though he won. But looking at the table, Harry was top. Is still top with 18 points. Amazing, Harry. You didn't have to do anything. You still stayed top. I am now second with Dan on 16, and Jack. Well, you must be like the Sauber out of us lot because you still got 0.
I've got last year's engine. I'm struggling with this year's performance.
Shame they don't do minus points in F1. Well, hopefully we'll all do a little better come Japan next weekend. Okay, before we wrap up, I'm going to ask Jack and Harry their driver of the day, and I kind of already know what it's going to be. But Harry, you nominate yours.
I'm going to say against expectations, Max Verstappen. Because he led from almost the start, hunted down Hamilton next to low, and stayed there. And Vettel managed to get up to fourth, but Verstappen was to lead from the front against the best car on the grid. Fantastic race.
Good nomination. Jack.
Kimi Räikkönen.
You know what? I would like to think that's a load of bullshit.
Just Jamie, what's his response been? Has it been
Michael, what happened today? Sounds like a monster.
But, I think I've got to go with for somebody that started at the back of the grid to even get points and to get to where he did in fourth. Like he says, tyres went off, obviously softs, but you've got to give it to Vettel, I think.
Okay, well, let's look at the results that we put on Twitter after the race, which is at Let's Talk Sport 12. Make sure you follow us. Vettel with the most at 59%. Verstappen with 41%, so it was quite close. And the other options was 0%. So the driver of the day goes to Sebastian Vettel from our votes. But really, Harry's going to go with Verstappen and Jack's going to go with Vettel. I'm going to go with Perez because he drove when he was ill. But that's not me being biased at all. But anyway, that wraps up our pole position podcast of the review of the Malaysian Grand Prix. I would like to thank Jack Price and Harry Wright for their contribution, and to Dan Middleton as well. A great work, mate. See you next week. And if anyone knows where he is, please send him flowers on behalf of us and say we hope he gets better soon. But thank you, gents. We'll be back next week for the build-up of Suzuka and then the review as well. So make sure you follow us on YouTube for that. So Let's Talk Sport on YouTube. Thank you very much for watching. So Verstappen wins. And with Hamilton coming second and Vettel coming fourth, the championship is still alive. Just.
Well, yes! Well done, Max. Well done, mate. That was absolutely on merit. Flawless drive. And happy birthday, mate. I enjoyed that one.
Is that possible? Stroll is not looking where he's going. He completely shunted into my car.
Lance Stroll.
I mean, seriously.
Vettel just ran right into the side of me.